Welcome back to Leadership Dialogue, the program that provides critical analysis on the policies and decisions shaping the future of Nigeria and Africa. I am your host, John Nkamian. Today, we dissect Nigeria's most pressing puzzle, the widening gap between the government's touted macroeconomic successes and the severe economic distress felt by millions of Nigerians. Now, while reports suggest that the Naira is stabilizing and reserves are recovering, the reality for families is crushing inflation and a cost of living crisis. Is this short-term pain truly leading to long-term gain? And how much longer can citizens endure this hardship? Well, our topic today is from macro gains to micro pain, bridging the gap between economic reforms and citizens' livelihoods. Of course, it promises to be an engaging conversation, and joining us to bridge this divide is Victor Tehimba, and together we will be having an in-depth conversation with a hope to shedding a whole lot of light on today's conversation. He is the programs manager at Ready to Lead Africa. Victor is an expert in civic engagement and policy influence, providing a crucial lens on how policy affects the average citizen. Victor, thank you for joining us on this edition of Leadership Dialogue.
Thank you, John, for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Now, let's establish the ground truth, as it were. Now, from your perspective, is the reported macroeconomic stability, the Naira's recovery, the increased reserve, a genuine achievement that was necessary, or is it largely cosmetic when faced with the sufferings on the streets?
Well, so when you put it that way, it looks as if it's a very simple answer between whether it is genuine or whether it's actually cosmetic. I think that yes, it is actually genuine. The decent reserves are growing, which is actually also good for Nigeria. You see the Naira basically trying to fight back as well, which is also good for Nigeria. You see our kind of GDP increasing, which is good for Nigeria. You see our trade, our kind of international trade also kind of increasing, which is also good for Nigeria. You hear about our FX, this is getting more FX, which is also good for Nigeria. Also more decent revenue, which also means more money for government to spend, which is also basically good for Nigeria. And all these are actually genuine. And what is also genuine is also the fact that the suffering of the masses, the hardship that we are going through, what we are facing on a daily, it is very harsh. It's very, kind of strangulating. That is also genuine. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned inflation. Beyond the exchange rate, what structural factors like logistics insecurity or lack of competitive market are fueling the crisis in food prices? Because for the average Nigerian, we can speak all the grammar we can speak, but it boils down to the ability to be able to put food on the table, roof over their heads, and clothes on their back. So, and all of this consume the larger share of household income. So, how does the average Nigerian manage these dynamics?
So, how does the average Nigerian manage these dynamics? Is how do I even put it? Because I'm not sure I know of a nice way to actually put it, because the problem with inflation is that I think at a point in time, the inflation rate in Nigeria was around 33% to 35%. I think now this is kind of hovering around 27% and thereabout. And so what happens with inflation, maybe perhaps I should just also make a little bit of clarification around inflation. So when you see inflation drops, it does not mean that the prices of commodities are going to
come down.
Yes. And so what inflation rates basically always mean is that at the rate at which the prices of goods and services are going to go up, they will not go as fast as they used to be, but they will still go on working, nevertheless, but not as fast as they used to be. So for instance, If you went to the market last week or last month and you bought this Congo of Gary for 2,000 naira, you come to the market next month later and then they tell you it's now 3,500 naira, which means that it has grown by over 75%. Yeah. So if you have inflation, which means that the inflation rate on that Gary is 75%. So if you come back to the market next time and then they say, oh, it's now 3,000 naira. So it means that the inflation is now at 50%. But you see that the price is still up, you get. So most of the times, this is where that disconnect happens between a country making macroeconomic gains. And I also say that the way you can distinguish it is that macroeconomy is at the level where the ordinary citizens do not play, at the economic level where the normal citizens do not play, do not participate in. So such as the fact that everyday Nigerian, I do not import fuel, I only consume fuel in all of those things that I have to do. You are not exporting, not how many people are exporting in that life scale to be concerned about the reserve, to be concerned about exchange rate, to that particularly that it pays them. But, like the country, in terms of what we do, we export, big decent corporations, oil companies, and the rest are going to enjoy the macroeconomic level, which has been a argument point that it's actually boosting working on foreign, as in kind of foreign investors, working on confidence in Nigeria to say, okay, want to come and invest. But Nigeria, as everyday Nigerian, you go to the market to buy your okra, to buy pepper, to sell your clothes, attires, and those other things. Yeah, you will not feel the immediate impact. The only time that macroeconomic level, growth, is going to reflect is if it is consistent over a period of time, like 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, consistently growing.
Not months.
Not months. It can't happen anymore. It doesn't happen anymore.
Why I ask?
And then another thing would be is that when you are in this level of this kind of inflation, you are trying to survive as young people. As working as citizens, the only thing that can also help us is structured, deliberate interventions by the government.
Now, why I asked was because the government, the current administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, at every point in time celebrates some level of achievement. They told us they had hit their target as of the end of August 2025. They keep telling us the reserves are growing, Naira is stable. As of yesterday, I think it was anything between 1,490 something to a dollar and thereabout. And it has hovered at least at that, for a bit. So when you put this information, Nigerians are highly expectant people. They expect that by the next time they go to the market, that these things would reflect. So some argue, unfortunately, we were having that conversation before we went live, that if government, in its wisdom, is doing what it has to do at the macroeconomic level, but also put in place instruments and systems to, in a way, fast track and also make achieve consistency in terms of price control, that maybe its efforts will be further appreciated by the people, and it will reflect at the microeconomy level.
So I think that one other way is that government is also the kind of Achilles heel to its own policies, in the sense of the other policies that implement that somehow, when you achieve results here, then those other policies are not like counter the results or the effects you get here. And so, for instance, one of the factors that leads to saying here that limits the trickle-down effect of macroeconomic gains is multiple transactions. So, despite the fact that at a point in time, dollar was around 1,900. So now we are looking at 1,450 to 1,499 or 15. And yet, the price of commodity, even from the ones imported, are not dropping. They are not cheap. Why? It's because government always keep trying to raise taxes, landing costs, custom duties, excise tax, and what have you. So at the end of the day, while you are trying to say that Naira is gaining, but at the end of the day, you are taxing the people in very multiple ways. So you look at the new tax bill that is going.
I was going to ask about that. Isn't that meant to limit multiple taxation and then give some sanity to the tax system?
So I think that the the broader aim, the broader gain of the tax work and reform bill is to widen the tax brackets to include more people. So it means that, so for example, like a very light example, is that now every bank holder is also going to require to have a tax ID, unlike what was before. So it means that you could have a bank account before, transact with the bank accounts, but then you don't pay taxes. So for now, you are this is going to do that. And for instance, I use actually work on Standard Chartered when I was going to open the bank account, even before this tax bill came into play, like many years ago. Somehow they asked me for my tax ID. So, I mean, because, and again, if you know Standard Chartered, they're also like a UK bank. So
Yeah.
they came in with that system. So, all of those things basically also happen. And then secondly, government formulate policies, government implement policies, and then governments do not understand. So governments will sometimes implement policies from their own intention that this is what these policies are supposed to be. In this policy formulation, right, there are something they call intended consequences and unintended consequences. So the consequences can be either good or bad. Then, so what that means is that some are the results or some are the fallout that you expect, that are going to come out from these policies.
Yes.
And then those unintended are the ones that you do not see them from any perspective, from your own calculation, but then they just happen, whether for good or for bad. And somehow our government forgets that the human factor also plays a role. So you do a policy and then somehow you feel like, oh, let's just put people in charge, they are going to get it done. And then people you put in charge, you forget that they have their own settlement, they have their own kind of nepotism, they have their own biases around a whole lot of things, they have their own competence level, whether to get things done or not. And so this also goes back to the fact that the result that you're looking for do not materialize. And so when you also look at, like you said, when we're speaking behind this, we're talking about when you remove fuel subsidy, government introduced CNG.
CNG, yes.
CNG, typically speaking, truthfully speaking, honestly speaking, it is supposed to ameliorate the suffering of Nigeria when it comes to transport. But what has happened is that motorists who have benefited and are still benefiting from CNG are using it as an opportunity for them to make more money. So they are charging commuters, they are charging working on passengers and other working on services of that particular service the same amount that people who are using petrol. So at the end of the day, when this government leaves power, people are going to say, so when they talk about CNG, what did they do about the CNG? Forgetting that you probably have entered a vehicle, you have hired a bus or a truck that is using CNG, but the truck charged you as if it was charging
for petrol.
For this in petrol. And so this behavior, what happens is that they don't know that it's actually a recycling effect. You that charge this, let's take a very good example, a very small example. If you're a market trader, market woman, you buy market products, you hire a truck, the truck is working at CNG, but it charges at the rate of petrol. You, the market person, you have to factor in your cost, the transport, and then your own profit as well, to how you're going to take care of the family. So she takes it to the market to go and sell. You, the driver, you send your wife, your family to go to the market to buy from that same market woman, and so that market woman sells at the high rate. But then this your people know that it's not supposed to be that expensive. So that money that you have gained, that you think you have gained money, you have returned it back to inflation that you have contributed to actually creating. So maybe, yes, you are right, but I'm looking at how government can then efficiently ensure that price control without interfering to say that we are now dictating the prices of markets, the working price of things in the market, so as not to cause further inflations.
So the argument about price control measures, from the way you've explained it, doesn't really hold water. But we've seen in the Western Hemisphere where government doesn't really have to come out to say, this is the price of this. They simply put a measure in place, a system that ensures that no matter what the changes are, the people are aware of the changes, but they are in some ways also aware that the system has made it possible for them to have access to those goods and services.
Yeah, so the challenge there is like in a developing country like us, and I also remember behind the scene before we started, you also mentioned the fact that in terms of price control, so we're talking about the CNG thing, and then you look like in the US, UK, for instance, when you take a cab, there's like a dental, I mean, there's like a central work on a registry where every trip you take
Is
recorded,
registered.
how much you've collected is actually recorded.
Yes.
The type of vehicle you're driving, and in this instance, it could also take whether you're running on CNG or you're running
Or on petrol.
So in that way, it can work, but we don't have that IT structure in Nigeria currently. And you also know the level of our internet penetration. You know the level of our advancement in terms of tech generally. If you do this, the only people that might just want to benefit, which I actually encourage, because we need to start from somewhere before now begin to expand.
Exactly.
It will be people from the cities for us, and then we go on into the work and the hinterlands of these other parts of the country. So, but now, while I feel kind of defeated around it, is that we do not have that infrastructure, that
Technological infrastructure
to basically control this. So I understand the argument of price control, because I've argued it around the housing. In terms of housing accommodation, the prices going haywire. Like, government does not need to dictate price, but government needs to put in frameworks that protect both the landlord and the tenants in a way that you can't give me a house for 1 million this year and then come back next year and then tell me that, oh, your rent has increased 1.5 million.
Exactly.
For no reason. Why me living in the house? I've been the one maintaining the house.
Property.
You are not feeding the house, basically, to say. So, I mean, in those kind of situations, yes, government can put in those kind of frameworks that protect, that regulate how you operate in the business. But, we have been mostly like, that's another factor that also that mitigates or, affects the transmission of result from macroeconomic level to micro level, is that a whole lot of, in Nigeria, a whole lot of it is informal. Or of how we operate. It doesn't matter whether the truck driver, the market woman, the small businesses that you're having, it's like most of them are informal, and then some are even out of the banking system entirely. And then some do not even see the need to say sometimes they want to be loyal to government because government has not been loyal to them in the first place. And when each time government wants to increase taxes, this is just by the way before I end on this question. Each time government increase taxes, government this what kind of proponents, government supporters, the government themselves, they talk about, oh, you want a country like America, UK, and you don't want to pay taxes. My challenge and my question is, go back in history, start from when the war started to where we are now. If you can show me any country that developed because of the
taxes,
then let me know, and I will stop talking forever.
Well, let's go back to something you mentioned, intervention. The government's palliative measures, cash transfers, you mentioned CNG conversion, are meant to be the social safety net. Now, in your assessment, are these efforts scalable? More importantly, are they reaching the most vulnerable Nigerians without the usual pitfalls of corruption or bias?
So, by the time, one of the other challenges again is, lack of robust, concrete, what kind of social safety net. In Nigeria, what happens is, like, when you look at these social safety nets that are supposed to be, we approach them from the point of not an economic policy or a national development policy. We approach it from the perspective that it is, a charity. And so when you look at the conditional cash transfer, it's like, in fact, it is called conditional cash transfer. On what condition are you transferring those cash to those people? How are you giving those cash to people? On what metrics or basis are you giving those cash to people? What is transparency of that level? Just like you talk, corruption and biases. That is what rules our. Before this in Buhari left, they talked about saying that they have reached over something million poor people, or even more than that. I can't really recall the number. Even in this government, they said that the last time they have shared over 50,000 to over 75 million people in Nigeria. 75 million people in Nigeria. And they said they are the most vulnerable. But the question everybody keep asking, I do not say that it does not exist. I am saying I have not seen it. I can guarantee you have not seen it.
Yeah.
The person, the MCR has not seen it. The cameraman here has not seen it. The person that just left has not seen it. Is that we all come from kind of certain villages. Within our families, we have very
Vulnerable-
poor people. We are
vulnerable
very
people.
Very poor people. You've not heard of someone from your family that benefited. You
Yeah.
don't know of anyone. You don't have any friend that knows someone. You don't know me. I don't know anyone. And so it goes like that. So where are this money being disbursed to? And you know that there usually is this scheme, which sometimes is also a scam, but it happens for that scheme to exist. It means that it's something that happened. When government wants to give out this kind of fund, some people approach it to say, oh, government is going to give out this CCT, cash consumer transfer, so we are going to slot your name in. But just make sure that when you are paid, you give us a part of it, you take that part. And people agreed. And then, so most of the chunk of that money goes into pockets of people that are later refunded. I was listening to the working and testimony of a young lady. Somebody just came and said, government money, 500,000 naira, it's from Nisara, whatever loan, just collect it, keep this amount of money, transfer the rest to me. No, this is government money. Truly, she got the money. Truly, she transferred the one that was supposed to go to the other person, and then later, government started removing the money from her account, and then she was shocked. How? I thought it was free money. So the money, so she did not need the money, but now the money has gone to her. So when we look at it, we are supposed to look at social safety nets as a deliberate economic and national development program initiative that is supposed to ameliorate sufferings of people, even within cities here. Even in Lube area where I live, I know people that are vulnerable, that your so-called 5,000 that I know that cannot do anything for anybody, that they'll be grateful that they collected that money anyway. And then I can say, okay, finally, this came to my area to share 5,000 naira for people, and I know that it's from the government. So on what basis? I keep asking, give us the register. Where did you get the poverty people register from? Who are the people that you have shared to? At what point? From what point? When did this exercise happen? That we are not aware. We just didn't get to hear about figures. So we look at that as one, we are doing charity, and two, an avenue to bless our cronies, and three, it is where we now look at it like, how do I put it? Oh, let us just say that government is doing something when actually government is not doing anything. So so the challenge that we have a problem with the social safety net that we actually conduct in Nigeria, because apart from the fact that it is riddled with inefficiency, incompetence, also riddled with corruption, is riddled with bias, it's riddled with insincerity of this purpose. So it's just there to say we are doing this for no reason, and that is why for every social safety net that has occurred from 2015 to now have achieved no result whatsoever.
Now, let me ask this question, because you mentioned economic programs, economic developmental programs. Does the Tinubu-led administration have clear set out economic developmental program? Because I remember under the era of Goodluck Jonathan, we even had an economic team. Same thing under President Olusegun Obasanjo. But under this current administration, I cannot clearly say there is an economic team, apart from the CBN governor, the Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy. So can we say this administration has a clean, clear directive in terms of economic developmental program?
Well, if there exists like a team, like a body, no, I won't say that there is, because I don't know of any. But if it's in terms of economic ideas, policies, and all of those things, I would say, for instance, there are quite a number of them, or a few of them. And I remember before this government came into power, a couple of years before, like maybe 3-4 years ago, I was, making an argument around something, in terms of consumption of this domestic product. And I think that was during the period of this Buhari lockdown borders. And why lock down the borders so that we are self-sustained? Prices of even goods produced in Nigeria were higher than prices of goods imported from other country, and then I'm like, I don't understand. If you're telling me that it's more expensive to produce in Nigeria, why don't we just keep importing? So don't, I mean, if you're importing, wouldn't you never tell them about custom duties, landing costs, clearing costs, transportation to different places, and then the other things that you have to pay about? So the thing was like, I was arguing that for us to move forward to consume in Nigeria, we need to have like a credit guarantee scheme that enables, this is no longer targeted at small businesses, medium businesses, manufacturers, but this one should not be for consumption. So if you are a dealer in shoes and you need to get shoes and you don't have money, and there are a whole lot of people making shoes in a Aba, and you can approach the government through its working on various agencies to get that funding from them, and then go and import those shoes from Aba. In fact, you don't need to get the money; just get the invoice from your supplier, give to the government pays, and then you pay back. So that way, government has given you capital to consume what has been produced in Nigeria. You bring it to your shop, and then you sell it to other people and just begin to buy. In this government, I think they have brought something like that, helping them. So the only challenge with that is that it seems as if most of the times there are policies or these reforms, I mean, this kind of initiatives are targeted at civil servants. How many civil servants do you have in a country of over
250 something million
people? Yeah, and I think they have another one that's also targeted for small and medium kind of enterprises. I've actually forgotten what the name is, and I think they also have working on credit card, but that is again civil servants. You have the Renew Hope homes, whatever and truly for that they are building homes, But again, you can't get it. I can't get it. You apply. I've tried applying because, of course, if it's for the public, why shouldn't I? If I have the money to purchase, I've tried. I didn't get it. In fact, I did not even get a response from them till today. But meanwhile, units are being sold every day. Who are the people buying? So by the time you go back and investigate, I see people within the same sector that have been saddled with the responsibility to sell this to Nigerians. The 774 homes that they seized from
Emefiele,
that they said they were going to go. Till today, we have a committee sitting down, and meanwhile, some of the houses already being occupied.
Now, as someone who is focused on youth, you're a young person yourself, and policy, where is the dialogue breakdown? Is the complexity of these reforms simple too much for the public to grasp without feeling frustrated, or is the government's communication strategy the primary failure point? Because there seems to be a disconnect. Where is that disconnect?
So the disconnect is that the disconnect is actually multifaceted. Yeah. So the disconnect is that one, first of all, the long years of distrust between
the public and government.
Yeah. So what you have is not like a partnership. It is like it is we against them. And then you see it in the way government responds, reacts, or treats the working citizens. Another disconnect for it is that I keep saying this thing, and I don't know why a lot of people don't like looking at it from this angle, is that there is a generational shift in ideology and in preventing what kind of problems. Now, the problems we face today, typically, they are not different from the problems that we faced in 1980. We still don't have electricity. Just like in 1980, we still
don't have good roads,
hospitals, and then, like the rest of the things here. It's the same problem, but the approach now, maybe the people of 1980s were more patient, were more this kind of pragmatic. Ideologically now, young people are, maybe impatient, so to say. They want that if you are doing something, show us that you are doing something. Let us be feeling the benefits. Don't be telling me to come back next year. If in 2023 you have removed fuel this subsidy, by now we should be feeling the benefits. Since you said that, we need to suffer before we get to the game point, suffer this point before you get to the game point, which would be very fantastic. After 2 years, young people are supposed to now be feeling it, but now they are not feeling it. You're telling them about reserve. I can't go to the reserve and collect dollars even if I want to exchange with my own money. You are telling me about this GDP of Nigeria is increasing. It does not. It has not reflected in my pocket.
My pockets, yes.
You get. I still go to the market. I buy things at very high rate. In fact, this last time I went to the market myself, they told me prices of things. I just went back home with my money. I said I'll go drink at the rest first, because the prices in that way. Then secondly, it's also the issue of corruption. Almost every young person believes that every person in government is corrupt. And that is because why young people are not living the life that they aspire to live. You have your politicians living the kind
ostentatious lifestyle.
Yes. So it's like you are living lavishly in a boulevard of misery, which is like you are being tone deaf. So when you say that, oh, things are so difficult, but then the president, you look like, okay, you are going to be flying private jet. Sometimes some gestures or some broken sacrifices you make, they are just gestures. To just say, it might not really mean anything, but I'll say, okay, but just take it, hold it. Another thing again is, you have to put it on these governments. For whatever reason, I keep saying it, this government is running at a back foot back foot. And what that means is that this is the second most unpopular government we ever had in the history of this country, if it's not the first. Between this and that of Okuna Shagari, I don't know which is more this unpopular. So it means that if you got 38% of the votes, it means 62% of the votes were actually against you. And so now, generally, you have to be more, in a way, to carry these people along. So you have more adversaries, more critics rather, than people who are. So that's good. And again, the president has taken that kind of position that let them be talking, we'll just be doing what we want to do, because we think that this is based on his own conviction, this is the way for us to go. So don't worry, I'll let them be talking and then we'll be doing here. Meaning that you do not even regard
the voices of the people. Well, Victor, if you had the final word with the economic team, what is the single most accountable short-term policy you would recommend right now to quickly alleviate citizens' pain and restore a measure of faith in the reform process?
I would say that they should broaden the working on safety nets for the meantime. And then when you are broadening this working on safety nets, it should not be in just one aspect. It should not be only CCT that you're talking about. It shouldn't be the CNG. So if you're looking at the CNG, which I think that a lot of people have adopted in their millions, is that you have to ensure, put up mechanism that monitors, that ensures that this thing gets down to that the ordinary people are benefiting from it. Your CCT, if you want to continue doing it, it should be a developmental program and not just you being generous to dash money to people. Let it be. But I say that 5,000 naira cannot do, 10,000 naira cannot do anybody. It doesn't matter in which village that person is staying. Yeah. And then I also say that there should be communication, open communication at every single time. The communication should not be the ones that you speak. You go to an event and then you speak. You go to a program and then you speak, and then the newspaper carry it and then say, oh, this person said it or the person said it. It should be targeted, deliberate media communication to say at this particular period of time, we'll be talking to Nigeria. Did this open a presidential media chat that they had the last time? It was like, maybe it was not last year. Yeah, so that's like a very long time ago for the president to now come out, apart from May 29 and October 1st. They should have that media chat. Questions shouldn't be posed only from the decent journalists. They can also put questions from ordinary Nigerians. Not Nigerians that are from your party or from your support group. Let it just be
open to Nigerians.
They don't have to be there, but the question should be picked from there. In fact, you can have that media chat without having to pick a question from the journalists. Let's just pick questions from everyday Nigerians asking you so that you understand the pain points of every Nigerian, so that when you're speaking to Nigerians, you know exactly how to address Nigerians to reassure them according to the program that you're implementing.
Well, our conversation with Victor Teyeba underscores that economic progress is meaningless until it translates into better lives for the average Nigerian. Macro stability is the foundation, but the house of prosperity is built with micro-focused implementation and transparent governance. At this point, Victor, thank you so much for making our time to be on this edition of Leadership Dialogue.
Thank you for inviting me.
And of course, remember, follow, like, and share. And of course, we will be looking forward to your reactions and comments to this conversation on this edition of Leadership Dialogue. I am Kamian John. Thanks for watching.